Hi, I'm Becky Tregear and welcome to my channel. It has been a while since I've been on camera. Most of the time I just film down onto my desk rather than at my face, but I thought I would chat to you today because there is something that I need to address, and that is the gigantic mess that my studio was in, or has been in for a very long time. So a little bit of backstory. I was a photographer for quite a few years and my studio was a photography studio. But a year or two before the world fell apart, I actually decided I wanted to give up photography as a profession. I'd just lost my passion for it. You know, it happens sometimes, and I'd started taking more of an interest in pursuing art, and so I did some online study, and slowly my photography studio morphed into an art studio, but I found it very difficult to let go of a lot of my photography gear, and so I really just have so much stuff at the moment, and there was just junk everywhere, and I don't know, I kind of just kept putting it off. You know, you put stuff aside into a corner. I had like a corner of the studio which was just piled with junk for dealing with later. Well, I'm afraid later has arrived, and I decided that I just need to get something done with it because the mess of it and the clutter was actually starting to really stress me out. And I don't know if you're the same, you know, when you're in a lot of clutter and it just feels like it's overwhelming you. That's what I was feeling. I just needed to go through and have a purge and just basically remodel my studio. Now, ideally, I would have $10,000 or more, and then I could just rip out the whole studio and remodel the whole thing, renovate it. But I do not have $10,000, so I did this on a bit more of a budget. Basically what I did was I've kept a lot of things, but I did also end up buying some more practical pieces of furniture and getting rid of things which weren't working for me anymore. So what I did is, because I was quite overwhelmed and stressed out, I didn't actually film everything. What I did was just take snippets of film going around the studio, showing you kind of what it looks like before and what it starts to look like afterwards. And I'm going to go into narration mode and just talk about what happened. It took me about 6 weeks to do this, not doing it every single day, of course. I mean, in between I still had to film, and I also took some time off for Easter, things like that. But most weekends I did something, and there were a few intensive weeks at the beginning where I had to take out large quantities of junk and then move everything back in once it was done. Oh, it's so scary when you have all this stuff out everywhere, and it's just like, how do you put it all back? Where does it go? So yeah, it's been a pretty exhausting and stressful month or two. I'm pretty tired. I've been very anxious, but I'm feeling a lot better now because now I can actually see quite a lot of my studio. And then next week I'm going to do a far more detailed studio tour and show you some of the things that are in the drawers and things. But if I do it all today, it's just going to take forever. So this one's like the general makeover and transition from a total mess to slightly less of a mess. And then don't forget to subscribe so you can see the whole studio tour and check out some of the stuff I have and some of the really cool new storage solutions that I've come up with. So without further ado, let's get into it. I am so nervous about this. This is years of accumulated crap, and to be honest, it was just a bit more horrifying than I expected it to be. But sometimes you've just got to deal with it. So let's get on with the video. Upon entering the studio, we first encounter this small IKEA Billy bookcase, absolutely groaning with books, completely full. I've got things on the floor, there's my CD case because I've started playing my CDs again, and then we look at the gigantic mess that is my studio. Every surface is covered in junk. This cluttered mess was my dressing table with mirror that was used for my clients when they wanted to do their hair and makeup before doing a studio shoot. And then I've got my little red desk, which is supposed to be my writing desk but is in fact covered in junk. Then I have all my paper drawers, a whole bunch of ornaments on those bits there, pictures on the floor. This is going into the kitchenette, so I just have a whole bunch of stuff. You can see that big jug and bowl just takes up so much space. And spinning round, I've got my aquarium, and then this wire shelving unit which the neighbours had actually thrown out and I took it, some really old furniture here and photo frames everywhere. This is the other side, and you can see lots of baskets full of junk, cables on the floor, and going over, this is my filming area, the one area that I have managed to keep clean this entire time because I needed it for filming, but as you can see, everything around it is just total chaos, and I'm still not sure about the stuff sitting on top of those pastel drawers. It still feels really cluttered, and you could just see the right mess I have. Those are all my watercolour paint tubes, which I liked to start with, but now I just think look really messy. Here's that shelving unit, which is really useful because then I can put all my other bits, but it was just taking up a lot of space and closing me in. This is my coloured pencil tower, and I am going to talk more about that. You could see all the clutter on my desk. That was stuff that I was filming or planning to film, and I really needed to put it away. Over here, more junk, yay! I have all these drawer units and things that I just haven't sorted. And speaking of not sorting, this folding table had a bunch of stuff that I was filming, and in that corner are things like easels and drawing boards and a really large canvas that I didn't know what to do with. These Billy bookcases are a relatively new addition, so they were fairly tidy, but in front of it are all these paintings and things that I had for my exhibition, bubble wrap that I have no clue what to do with, and then just this other furniture, that wooden piece I'd seen in a flea market and I just really wanted it for some reason. That's Squizgar the skeleton, and these are my backdrops which are mounted onto the wall that I used for photography. Going in the opposite direction from the first Billy bookcase, the one that's covered in books and things, we go into my office, and arguably this is even worse than the studio. It is just so cluttered. I just had junk everywhere. Even my office chair is worn out there, but this is where I do all of my video editing and officey things. I just have filled this room up. You can see another computer monitor here. That's actually from my old computer because I had to upgrade. And then I've just got all this storage that is totally useless. And I have a bunch of drawers here for my crafts, which ideally would actually be in the studio as well with my art stuff. But basically I just needed to pull everything out of here and sort it. And up the top you'll see this gigantic beanbag, which was used for posing newborn babies for photos. So just to recap, I'd basically lost control of my entire office and studio area. The clutter was overwhelming me and I just had no room to put things. And I think a lot of it is just because the furniture in there was not useful and I needed to do something about it. So that is what I'm going to do. Just to remind you of the mess before I get into it. It's like when you live in it, you don't actually realise how bad it is, but then I just really started to look, and in these photos I'm just going, oh my goodness, I just can't believe it got so bad. Somebody help me! Okay, so the very first thing I did was get those ornaments put away, and that plastic box is something that I got off the side of the road, and I was so lucky to get that for free. It was perfect. And then I'm going to get rid of that piece of furniture out of here because it's just not needed. Of course, as soon as I took the lid off the box, Gandalf appeared from nowhere and had to get in it. Both Gandalf and Trixie had a great time while I was tidying. They got into everything. You could just see how nasty that carpet is, and if I had the money I'd rip it out and put new carpet or lino down, but I don't have the money, so we're just going to have to live with it. And anyway, here's a bit more of Gandalf just being cute and smooching about in the box. Of course I had to gently kick him out after a while because I was never going to get any work done at this rate. Oh, but he's just so cute. Stop getting distracted by the cats, Becky. And just like that, there it was gone. Where did it go, you might wonder? Well, IKEA actually buy back their own furniture, so that's where it went. They paid roughly 40%, I think, of what we originally paid for, so that's actually pretty good. And here it is back at IKEA. Happily, it just managed to fit into our car. The next thing that needed to go was this entire wooden shelving unit and that beanbag up the top. Someone actually bought the beanbag, so I'm really pleased I managed to get rid of that. There were a lot of things hiding in this shelving unit, including all of these gel plates that I had lost for ages and had fallen down the back, so I'm so happy I managed to find them. Woohoo! And I also had a couple of art journals that I'd been messing around with, which are half done. But getting that drawer unit out of the office was the best decision I ever made, and it already looks so much better. So unfortunately IKEA would not take these shelves back because they are no longer being made, and so we had to keep them. The cats just had the best time on them, and Trixie was just going nuts. It was hilarious to watch. So we're probably actually going to move this shelving unit outside and put pot plants and garden tools on it. It's really sturdy and we'll keep it under our covered porch area. I'm so glad it's out of the studio though, because it really just wasn't practical. It would have been better if I could put it sideways, but I had to kind of put it end to end and I just wasn't able to access stuff off it. Trixie, she was having a real play that day. Usually she's quite grouchy and doesn't want to play, you know, she's sleeping, but yeah, she was really active and having a good old time on there. Playing with Gandalf, which is very unusual for her. Normally she just ignores him or gets cross if he comes too close, but she was having a good day, I guess. They're so funny. And yes, I should have been tidying, but this was just too much fun. Okay, back to studio. I got a bit tired of this Billy bookcase. It's just not big enough, and I was sick of seeing it every time I walked into the studio, so it's out of here, although you might see it turn up later. I pulled all the books off, and there is just junk everywhere. I basically just wanted to clear that area. I don't know what Gandalf was doing in that corner, but as you can see without the Billy bookcase there, it just looks so much more open. Now with some of the money from the dressing table, we got another Billy bookcase. This one's much taller, and I decided that I was going to have all of my books in the corner of my office because it makes so much more sense with the CD case next to it. And full credit to my husband Nick, who is the flat pat master, and he put this bookcase together for me. Thank you so much, because it's something I'm hopeless at doing. And here it is with my books in it. As you can see, there's plenty of room to grow into, and I've also managed to put all of my sketchbooks on here as well. So I just love this area so much, and it felt really great to have one tiny area of my office all finished and nice and tidy with all of my books out for easy display and grabbability, and my colouring books fit on it too. Next up, I decided that I really wanted to move these wire drawers out of the office and into the studio with all of my other wire drawers, so that's where they're going. And you can see I can't even reach most of them because I had stuff in front of them and stuff on top of them. It was just a mess, and yeah, it was not pretty to look at. So my red desk is instead going to go into the office, and I'm going to swap them over with the wire drawers because the wire drawers fit perfectly in that area. I did do a lot of measuring first to make sure it fit because I had to take that heat event into consideration. The wire drawers fit in there perfectly side by side, 4 together rather than 2 stacked on top of the other 2, and the heat event is just under that little black table. Annoyingly, these drawers don't have lids, so with the rest of the dressing table money, we bought a door, and it fits on there perfectly. It's meant to be a kitchen door, but it's also absolutely perfect as a tabletop. So shiny! And here's my red desk and chair where the wire drawers were, so that worked out well. But oh my god, what a mess the rest of the office was. I had to just pile everything up, and this desk also has to go. I just have no more room for it. And it's just closing the whole room in. During this whole process, I just had piles of stuff moving from one area to another, and it was really stressful. I have to give credit again to Nick for getting me through this because he helped a lot to break the junk sorting down into easier pieces. It didn't take long to cover that door in stuff. These are all those shelves I had in the other room, and it took me a few tries to decide what exactly I wanted to stack on here because I really need a storage area. The coloured pencil tower also had to go, and that's because Gandalf is getting really big and he jumped on top of it and nearly knocked the whole thing over, so I realised that it's not very stable. Bye-bye! It's out of here. I put all of my coloured pencils back into the tins, which thankfully I'd kept in a cupboard, so I am going to find a new storage solution for those. And there is that nice empty area with the coloured pencil tower out. I'm actually glad they're gone. They were kind of annoying and hazardous. So in their place, I bought 2 9-drawer Alex units from IKEA. They look so awesome. They fit in there really nicely, and this is where all of my coloured pencils and various other things are going to live. And of course, Trixie had to supervise the whole thing. The lac table that was holding the pencil shelves is now stacked on the other lac table in the corner of my studio, and then I put the Black Betty bookcase back into the room because that fit beside it in front of the curtain, giving me more storage. Back in the office, because I'm not quite done here yet. Remember that desk? Well, out it went, and here's a huge pile of junk on the floor. Can I just say how mentally and emotionally exhausted I was at this point? I cried quite a bit, and Nick thankfully helped me tidy it up. How much better does it look without that desk there? I wanted to keep a couple of chairs in here, and of course straight away Gandalf was settled right in. He was having a great old time here, because also this is where I get a lot of sun coming in, and so I'm really happy that now I can sit in the sun without that desk being in the way. Trixie came in as well to check out everything and then settled down on the other chair. It's not usual for them to sit this close to each other, but I think they were just enjoying the extra space and sunny warmth as well. So I think all of our spirits were lifted a bit at this point. Annoyingly though, the office still wasn't done, and I had all this crap to deal with. 2 trolleys full of junk, and some bags there, and also in the wardrobe I have a lot of other stuff. I don't know where all that suddenly magically appeared from, but you could see all of my craft supplies in there, and I really wanted to move them out. Which is where the wire drawers and the other plastic drawers come into play, because now I can have all of my craft stuffed out with my art things and to make room in the wardrobe to store other stuff. I managed to condense down 2 trolleys into 1 trolley, so that looks a lot neater, and I also tidied up my desk so it is a much neater and more practical workspace now. With the office pretty much done, I wanted to get into my brand new Alex drawer units. So I decided I was going to line the drawers with some paper that I had. I nearly threw this paper out, and then I figured that it might actually work quite well to line the drawers. You can see me struggling to pull it out of the plastic there. I don't know what was going on there, but 2 of them side by side fits into those drawers almost perfectly, well enough, I think, to cover the bottom, and then I can put pencils and other things in there without worrying about staining the drawer units themselves, because they're brand new, they're very expensive, and I wanted to keep them as pristine as possible. But I think these look really cute, and then I just started to put in some of my boxes of art supplies. I was able to fit in all of my coloured pencils and also my bottled inks. So here I'm actually lining the drawers with a plastic paper. It's not quite a Yupo, but it was meant to be a printer paper that we had that was also lying around, so I figured I'd make use of it. And then I can put my inks in, and if they happen to spill, then they'll run onto the paper and not to the drawer, which will stain really easily. I also covered that with some of that pretty paper, just so that every drawer had it and they were all matching. So I will show these drawers in a bit more detail next week when I do the studio tour, but here's me putting a bottle of ink in. Aside from my tape measure, the other extremely useful item that I had during this whole process was my label maker, because I was able to label all of my new drawers and shelves, and this made life so much easier and neater with printed labels, though I did have to trim these ones down to fit the skinny baskets. So at this point my studio was actually starting to come together, and I was seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's looking so much neater, although in this corner I had to do something because I still had those paintings to organise, but I moved them out of the way so you can see what I did there. That's just some of my remaining camera gear. Gandalf, I think, climbed on literally everything that I had in the studio, and he just wanted attention and cuddles because I was doing other things and not paying attention to him. At one point he just decided he'd had enough and he wanted to be cuddled right now, so here he is, being cuddled. So I'll just put down everything else I'm doing to give you attention and pats, but as if I would have it any other way. Don't know what I was saying there, but I cut all of my audio out, so there we go. Alright, moving on. This here is the charity shop pile. We did have to throw some of the stuff away in the bin because it was just useless, but these things could probably be rehomed, so off they went, and it felt great to be rid of it. Meanwhile, back in the studio, I still had all these annoying folios and pieces of cardboard and all that sort of stuff that I didn't really want to get rid of, but it just would not fit in any of my drawers. So I had to come up with another solution, and I got another piece of furniture from the art shop this time. It's a Marbeff M40 folding print rack. I got the large one that can hold up to 18 kilos or 40 pounds of things. Here it is all assembled. Thank you, Nick, for doing that, because I'm hopeless at putting these things together. It's really nice, actually. It's so well made, and the wood is beautiful. I think it's a beech wood. And finally, I have somewhere to store my large folios and other things which just would not go anywhere else. I mean, really, it's designed to display prints and paintings and things in art galleries and whatnot, but works perfectly in my studio, and I'm so happy to have this. This one is a really big canvas that's still wrapped in plastic that someone had left on the side of the road in the local neighbourhood, so I picked it up and brought it home, and this is it filled with stuff. So much nicer than having it lying on the floor. And here's the last area that I needed to tackle around where I film. All of this junk just needs to be organised and put into better places. So what I really wanted to do was actually get rid of the chest of drawers and those plastic boxes and move all of those paint tubes away from this area. And I also got rid of the tube display box. So I wanted to replace this with a new piece of furniture, so out it goes, and I'm going to put in its place another piece of furniture from IKEA, and this is an Alex drawer unit on wheels. And that fits in exactly where the drawer units and the plastic boxes are. So I actually forgot to film the rest of what I did in here, but there was still a lot of decluttering to do. So I did all that, and now I'm going to give you a tour of what my studio and office look like now. Opening the door to my studio, there is now a nice bare wall where the black bookshelf used to be. Granted, there are a few scuff marks on it, and I might need to fix that wall at a later time, but it looks so much more open, and I've just got my paintings still up there. Coming in to the right, we come into my studio, and as you can see, I've put away quite a lot of stuff, although there are a few bits and pieces that I might want to get rid of at a later time. I added a little table there which was sitting in the studio, and it's got a cushion because the cats keep sitting in here, but my bookshelf is all nice and neat, and my CDs are too. Panning around to the ensuite bathroom, which I haven't really done anything with yet. I'll just leave that. Now we look into the studio itself. Now I admit it's still got a lot of stuff in here, but I want my stuff, I like my stuff. And it is a working studio, so you can't expect it to be totally barren. As you can see, all my paintings are up on the wall, and Nick very kindly hung them all up for me. And just overall, I am so much more happy with how the studio looks now. And I really love that new Alex drawer unit on wheels. It looks so cool. Okay, so here is one lot of drawers, and the metal ones on top were the ones that were on the kitchenette table. I've actually moved these over here. So this is my little coffee area, and you can see the skateboards up on the wall too, yay! And the kitchen sink's a bit of a mess, but the fish tank stayed where it is, and I moved the metal drawer unit that was over to the right on top of the Alex drawer unit because it fit really well. And in the Alex drawers I have all of my watercolour paints, which I will show you in my tour next week. Behind the shelves on the kitchen bench are a few extra things that don't really have a home yet, but I will get to those eventually. And I did have to keep the little koala because he's like the studio mascot. Now, instead of a dressing table with mirror and useless space, I have all of my wire drawers and all of my plastic drawers here, so much more storage, and I was able to bring my craft stuff into the studio as well, which is really great. I am really happy with how this turned out, and I like all the pictures hanging on the wall. I mean, I've still got some of my trinkets out because I don't want to get rid of them all. And I haven't done anything with the paper, that's still as it was before because that's kind of a job on its own and I just really can't be bothered at the moment. But I found a use for that wooden glass cabinet. I've now got all of my vintage bottles in it. I am so excited about this because they look really awesome in there. Plus I have a few other trinket boxes and things which fit in here as well. Funnily enough, I actually saw this exact piece of furniture a few weeks later in an antique store, and I'm just going to show you it. I mean, check it out, it's exactly the same. And on there, they had $110. I pay $40 for mine, and mine is in better condition, so that was a real bargain. As with the other drawers up here, most of them have got stuff in them, and I have gone and sorted through a lot of the drawers, but there are still some which have stuff that I've just kind of put in there for now because I just don't want to deal with it, and I will get to those drawers eventually, but at least it's all put away and out of sight. This is where I keep my little CD player, and I sorted through my ornaments and trinkets, so now I've kept my favourite ones and gotten rid of some of them, but really I've kept most of them. Anyway, I'll probably show more of that later. Here's my Marbeff unit. In case you were wondering, I did have my large whiteboard there, but I've kept it out of this because I didn't really want to show all of the stuff that I've got written on there. But this corner is looking pretty good too. Again, there are some places that could do with some more sorting, but that's just stuff to do over time. Overall, I'm quite happy with this area. Panning around past the window, here are my lovely new Alex drawer units, and as you can see, I did get rid of that tube storage thing in the corner there, and the clear plastic boxes moved there. So a bit closer, just so you can see all of the drawer units and some of the things that I put on top. I tried to be minimalist about this, but I still wanted to put some storage there. Here's my drafting desk, which was covered in junk for many months, and I finally cleaned it up. And I've got a second one of those metal drawer units there, which I also got from IKEA, and my pink drawer units now sit on top of them, perfectly underneath the kitchen bench, so I'm much happier with this layout. And I then found a plastic tidy to tote all my stuff around, and that sits on top of the pastel boxes, and I can move the whole thing off at a pinch if I need to. So that is pretty much it. Gandalf approves of his new sleeping arrangements. It's much more comfortable in here now, and I love it as well. I do take the blankets off if I want to sit down, but usually I just keep them there so the cats have somewhere to lay down. I am so glad to be done. Now it's Trixie's turn to sit on the red chair. It's either one or the other on there, but as long as they're happy, and when they're sitting on the chairs, they're not destroying the office or the studio. Well, that was exhausting, I can tell you. I feel a lot better now that things are actually so much more organised and I actually have an idea of where things are, because I'd lost quite a few things and they'd all gotten buried in those shelves and things like that. So now I just feel like I'm in a lot more control and I know exactly what I have in the way of inventory, so I know not to buy certain things, and maybe a few other things, if I want to buy them, I can fit them in particular places rather than just buying random stuff and then just not knowing where to put it, because that's how I got into this mess in the first place. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're not too traumatized, at least not as much as I was doing this. And don't forget to check in next week for a more detailed studio tour of all the stuff I have on the shelves and in the drawers. So thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you again in my next video. Hope you're all taking care out there. Swatch you later. Bye!